Hi, thanks for joining us on Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCS Heart podcast that allows us to make the mental health victories of everyday Ghanaians accessible, relevant, and relatable. We hope that you enjoy listening to us and learning lots, and we hope you do come back again to learn some more. Now, today's episode. Hi, Queen. It's so nice to meet you.
Hello, Fosua. Nice to meet you too.
I'm so glad we finally can do this for Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. For those of you who are watching this for the first time, this is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, an NOCS Heart podcast. We do our best to make mental health victories more relevant, more relatable, and more accessible to our society. Today we have Dr. Queen Angela Norman going to take us through the very interesting topic of positive psychology, mental health strains. I won't steal her thunder. We'll just go straight into it. So, Queen, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm just Queen Angela Norman. I'm a clinical psychologist by profession. I am currently doing a bit of study for positive psychology specialization, and I'm very interested in positive psychology because I feel that aside from working to get people out of mental health disorders or mental health illnesses, even generally we all need to live a good life. So how we can invest more in ourselves even now and again as the stresses of life beat us up, how we can still pick ourselves up and move on. Yeah, so I like positive psychology, and I think that's where my interest lies.
Lovely, lovely. So, you've already mentioned it a bit. And I like that you said we all live the good life. So, just Queen. Maybe I'm speaking. Tell us why this topic of being able to manage mental health strains is important to you.
Mm. So, like I mentioned earlier, the stresses of life beat us up every single day, and we would keep interacting with things. Pressures come from every angle. Just by being human, I think we have the stresses dealing with us from every end, from work, financial situations, even where we find ourselves in this part of the world. I think we may have a bit more stress than others, in my opinion, anyway. So all these things affect people on a daily basis, and yet we are still expected to be able to achieve, to be able to do well at our jobs, be productive, make more money. If you're students, still, have better academic performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a lot to juggle for one individual with, just 24 hours in one day. There's so much to deal with.
Mm.
And so it's important for us to even be able to identify some of these strains, some of these mental health stresses that come our way, to be able to manage it as and when they come.
Mm.
Yeah, so which is why I think it's very important that every single person needs to have an understanding of themselves and what triggers them at what point, so we don't get to the point of breaking down and not
Mm.
being able to achieve all the things that we have to achieve anyway.
I like what you said about breaking down and all of us being equipped to manage the stresses of life. Um, you you mentioned about the strains, the stresses, the mental health strains, and we know that there are mental health diseases, mental health illnesses. How different is
Mm.
a mere strain from an actual mental health disorder or illness, or like how different is it?
Mm.
Because then it means everybody should know, because everybody could suffer from a mental health strain. So please tell us what the key
Mm.
difference between that and an actual mental health diseases.
Okay, so for the strain, they would be mostly the pressures and stresses that we deal with in everyday life. And every individual has some form of that. as long as they're human beings. And mind you, everyone has mental health. I think that's one thing that when you mention mental health, people automatically go to the mental illness. That's
Mm,
not what we are talking about. So the mental health is, your state of mind in terms of your feelings, your behavior, your thought processes. And everyone has that. So there can be pressures to these aspects of you. Aside your physical health, you have your mental health. There can be pressures that come in. And
mm,
so it's necessary to know that you are prone to these mental health strains,
mm,
okay? And based on how you were raised, how you grew up, your environment, even some internal qualities that you have, that these stresses can affect you differently. So the
mm,
strains are just about the pressures and the tensions that you have in terms of your emotional and mental health, okay?
mm, mm.
However, on the other hand, the mental illness, they are diagnosable conditions,
Okay.
okay? And they affect your thinking, your feeling, and your behavior. So when you hear conditions like the depressions, the anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar disorders, these are the mental health illnesses, which
Okay.
are quite different from just the strains like you're just stressed, you're anxious, you have financial issues, relationship problems, inter and intrapersonal conflicts, right?
Mm,
So these are some of the difference. So everybody can be prone to the mental health strains, but
mm,
not everybody may be end up having a mental health
mm.
disorder.
Nice.
Another connection I'd like to make is that when the strains are not dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
then they are prone to become mental health disorders.
Oh.
When they go on for a while and you don't do anything about them, then your likelihood of getting a mental health disorder increases. So, yeah,
Mm.
that's the connection I like to make.
Oh, thanks for the clarity. I mean, when you were speaking, you said because you're human. Because you're human, if you
Mm,
go into a very smoky or dusty area, you're most likely going to cough. But if you
exactly.
don't have asthma, you are most likely
Mm,
not going to break down from some small dust in the air. Whereas somebody who may have
yes.
asthma may need extra help, and that will be the illness that they have to manage versus someone who is
Yeah.
fine, doesn't have asthma. But if you go and stand obviously in the smoke and the dust, you are literally, because you're
You
human.
can develop.
So everybody
Yeah.
can, and because we are human, everybody will suffer from a mental health
Mm-hmm.
strain. But because of the way we may have been raised or how we handle issues or what we know or don't know, like what we are learning
Mm,
today, we can be better at handling it.
mm-hmm.
And I love what you said too.
Exactly.
If we do not manage it well, it could actually end up becoming manifesting a mental health illness. So I appreciate that a lot. Now, you've given us some definitions. Let's try and go into some of the practicals of it. Um,
Okay.
are there, sorry, I was going to repeat the same question. What are some of the most common mental health strains and what do they actually look like in everyday life? You've mentioned a few, but if you could
Hmm.
expand on it some more,
Yeah.
how would I know that
Okay.
this is me suffering a mental health strain versus
Mental health.
just me reacting to something?
Mm.
How would I be able to, what do they look like?
Okay. So I think I'll go a bit on one after the other.
Okay.
So if I take stress, for example, which is like the commonest,
I'm
the
stressed.
commonest mental health strain. I know. That seems to be like our response to how are you? Yeah. How are you? I'm stressed.
I'm stressed. If you
Yeah.
don't use the
So when
I'm
it
fine,
comes
then
to
it's stressed.
yes, I'm stressed, exactly. So stress is a natural response to challenges or threats. When
Okay.
you are faced with a situation that your brain perceives as, okay, this can be a bit, it's unfamiliar, I don't know if I can handle it, I don't think I have the resources to deal with it, it can evoke, the stress response cycle. This stress response cycle in itself, it is a protective factor that the body uses to help you deal with stress. And, from evolutionary perspective, you can understand how that has developed because let's say when our forefathers were in the hunting and gathering era, they needed that stress response to deal with the threats that they had to, the saber-tooth tigers and the snakes and all of those things that, that would come your way. But even now, we still have that response naturally. So you
Mm.
get people having things like palpitations, they have muscle tension, they are fatigued most of the time, stomach upset, headaches. These are some of the physical manifestations of the stress response cycle, right? And then it can also influence some behavior changes, like you're very irritable. The least thing, you're upset, or you're shouting either at your children or at your subordinates,
I can relate to that
or
one.
a lot of people can. It can also manifest as difficulty concentrating.
Okay.
You have so much to do, you want to concentrate, but you realize that you can't even concentrate on one thing to complete, and that's also adding on to your stress. You can also have disrupted sleep
Hmm.
or changes in your eating habits. You can't sleep,
Oh,
you can't eat. Yeah.
or you eat
So
too
these are
much.
some of the, or you eat too much. Exactly. You know how people say that I eat when I'm stressed?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can either have those changes in your diet when you're stressed. Also, emotionally, you can just feel so overwhelmed, or you can even feel anxious and frustrated. So these are some of the things that stress as a mental health. So you'll be seeing these symptoms. However, it may not go to the point of getting a solid diagnosis, right?
Okay.
But then the symptoms are real and they are something that you can work with or you need to deal with. Otherwise, it might break you down,
Okay.
right? One thing about stress is also that some level of stress is good for you because,
Oh, is
like I
it?
said, it is. So back
I've heard
to,
that a lot, but I'm
the
always not quite convinced. Wow, so stress is actually a good thing. Tell us a bit more about that, since we are talking about strains and stress being one of them, but now stress is a good thing.
yeah, so some amount of stress, of course, not all stress is a
Oh,
good thing.
some.
Yes, but so back to, the Stone Ages, like I was telling you about, stress is a protective factor. The stress response cycle is a protective factor. So now when you are faced with a threat, okay, your body sets you up to what we call the fight or flight response. Right now, I think they've added freeze to it. So that response is to help you deal with the threat. Now, the symptoms that I mentioned are things that your body sets you up for to help you deal with the stress. So, for example, your heart starts to beat really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the purpose of the heart beating fast is to pump blood to the relevant parts of your body that need it to
Oh,
energize your muscles, to get you more energy. If it's a bear you're fighting, you need to be able to punch the bear really hard, you know.
if you're running away, you need
And
more
then
blood in your hands or your feet.
exactly your feet to move you out of the space as quickly as possible.
Mm.
So that helps with your heart beating really fast. Your you become a lot more focused, very attentive, like you have very good eyesight. You are able to make connections because you need to get out of your setting if you have to run away. Okay, or you need to make connections faster to deal with whatever threat it is. Now
Mm.
your mouth becomes dry, your stomach, have like some knots in your stomach because digestion ceases when the stress response cycle is triggered. And
Oh,
as digestion ceases, that's why you might have some stomach upsets because
people are
it's
stressed.
stopping exactly that process. Okay, so now that stress can get you to be a bit more concentrated, you are focused because you're afraid something will happen. So you prepare for whatever is supposed to come.
Mm.
Okay, so that's the amount that is good. And I think we call it eustress, the good stress that helps you achieve. Yes. But then this stress is when it's on the other side. Now, when the stress becomes too much or chronic, Then it's also weakening your immune system because the stress response cycle triggers, hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, which may
Mm.
help you in the short term. But when they are in your blood for so long, they weaken your immune system. So you realize that when you're stressed, you catch a cold very easily. You keep falling sick. Keep
Mm.
going to the hospital. They tell you that, oh, it's nothing. We don't see
There's
anything.
nothing.
Maybe you're
Oh,
stressed.
I've had that before. It's not nice. You go pick your,
uh,
they say you can't find it, it's nothing. Go home and sleep. And you're like, what?
yeah. You feel it. You feel like, this is real. I'm going through it. But then they don't seem to get it. So the doctor might tell you that, oh, you're stressed. So just get some rest. And you realize that after resting for a while, you feel okay.
That's
You
true.
know, that's because those hormones have also reduced in your blood. So yeah, stress can be, a necessary evil when it needs to be, but too much of it can also destroy the balance
Mm.
within you. Yeah.
I like the way you've talked about um the connection between stress and even your
Mm.
physical reactions. Example, somebody
Yeah,
says, I have a headache, for there's too
exactly.
much going on my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
study. So if we don't manage mental health strains properly, they will actually show up physically as well. Um,
Yes.
so that's very interesting. I also love what you said about eustress and distress. So when
Mm,
we are thinking of mental health strains, we are talking about distress. But when we are talking about
exactly.
enough stress to get us acting appropriately without killing us, like,
Mm,
there's a test coming, so you should stop and learn, and it's not making us break.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
eustress. We learn
That's
something new every day. So thanks for telling
yeah.
us about that. I'll go to my next question. So you've mentioned some of the symptoms, you mentioned how they look like in real life, even given us real examples of how we feel and why.
Mm,
How do I overcome them? I think that's the point of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, is to
mm,
make victories like overcoming mental health strains as a victory
mm,
accessible to all. So can you tell us when we are feeling this way and we don't want it to go on forever? What are some of
mm,
the things we can do to overcome them? And maybe you can talk about some of the short-term things and some of the longer-term things as well.
mm. Okay. So again, all these strains, um, they would vary based on the circumstance or your, ideal situation. So what you might need may also vary from person to person. Okay. So if let's say the stress is as a result of work, the strain, it's a work thing. You have too much probably on your plate, yet you are taking on a lot because maybe as a person you struggle to say no. You just don't know how to disappoint people,
Mm.
or you want to be seen in a certain light
I need
that
a
you are
promotion.
competent, you know. So you might end up taking on too much than you have the resources to handle, right? And then be have a lot of deadlines, a lot of people to satisfy. And another thing too might be that although you are killing yourself, people don't seem to be seeing it, or you're not getting the appreciation you think you deserve. Right? And this is causing you sleepless nights. Yeah, like you're just all over the place. So how you can deal with that one is self-care, very necessary. Okay. Self-care in not being selfish. So sometimes when you hear self-care, people think, oh, you're being selfish, or you go for a pedicure, massage. That's one aspect of self-care. But self-care is beyond that.
Mm.
Being able to set boundaries and stick to your boundaries is one way to practice self-care. And your boundaries is a way that you are telling yourself you're aware of your strengths, you're aware of your weaknesses,
Mm.
you can handle this, but this out of your space, and you wouldn't want people to cross that boundary and disturb you in this way. So you let them know that, oh, okay, maybe when it's past 6 p.m., I may not be able to answer work calls, or I may not be able to respond to work emails. So
Mm.
let the people know and I don't think it will be within your work contract that you should be answering work calls. Usually, even the work specifies your work hours because they want you to work within those hours. So outside of that, you have that um control to let people know that okay, this is not something I can do. Especially for women, fortunately or unfortunately in our society, women usually handle the home and
Mhm.
the children. So sometimes you're already battling that you want to be competent at work, you want to do extra. So then you'd end up you carry the work, work from work back home, and then you still be doing work at home. But
Mhm.
you also have those responsibilities at home to, make supper, handle the children, make sure everything is in order, clean the home. So it can be a lot, tedious
Mm.
work for some women to handle, be able to do both and be able to do it very well.
Mm.
So setting that boundary with work, knowing that okay, work is within these hours or this much effort I put in work and I'm doing my work. So it's not about you not doing the work and carrying it home. That's
Mm.
different. So as long as you are doing what you need to do at work, now you'd also set time for home because you need to balance that. You might end up doing very well at work and then your home is suffering. You are having relationship issues with your spouse, and I don't think you'd have that sound mind to even be productive at work.
Mm. Mm.
You get it? So as you are focusing on that, you set the boundary and you have to be aware, self-aware, know how much you can take and how much you can't take, and also set that your value system. If you want to have both, have your work and then your family, then you need to invest in both.
Mm.
You can't tell your family to let it sacrifice, like mommy is busy, you're not making time for your children, and yet you expect them to be responsible and grow up well, and it might not happen just like that. You might need to put in that effort, right?
Mm.
So setting boundaries is one way to self-care. And setting boundaries also means that learning to say no when you need to.
Mm.
Okay. And knowing that saying no doesn't mean you are not helpful or that you don't care about the other people,
Mm.
but you are caring for yourself as well.
I Something that someone told me that a sick official will still not do the work, and I probably people know me now would hear it. Let's say a sick queen will still not do the work, so take care of yourself. We'll go on a break very soon and we'll unpack this some more. Definitely. I love what you said about setting boundaries. I personally had been in such situations before. And funny enough, it's not just one job. A couple of roles I've played in the past, couple of companies, it would come up and then I realized that, oh, I haven't set the boundary properly. Sometimes it may feel hard
Mm,
to even mention that, oh, you know what, after 7 p.m. So I realize that jobs nowadays may not be a strict 9 to 5. However, there are a few days
mm,
to go over. Even in those days that you go over, it's healthy to say that this is my hard stop. So yes, I need close
mhm,
at 5. But if for some reason I have to work late, this is where it ends. Otherwise,
mm,
keep going, and then before you know it, it becomes stress for you and then shows up physically. And unfortunately for me, it's happened to me in the past, so I can really relate to what you are saying. And yeah, I mean the relationships at home. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and you find out that yes, you can pursue some of these things, but if you don't invest in both, then one day you wake up and then for me, my child doesn't want to come to me because someone else has been handling this child all the time whilst I work. So it's an investment. So I love what you said about boundaries and being able to say no and communicating those boundaries as well. It's only fair that you communicate them. So we'll go on a quick break and we'll be back very soon to continue. Hi, we are back from the break. Thank you so much, Queen, for joining us. She's a clinical psychologist, in case you don't know, and she's telling us. So today, in case you are still listening, you are getting professional help. Aside mine, this is professional. So this is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. We want to make mental health victories more accessible, more relatable, and more relevant to everybody in our society. And to have a victory, there has to be a struggle, and struggles exist. And Queen is telling us today that everybody will experience some form of struggle, definitely in different degrees, and some that even don't have anything to do with mental health illnesses, but have to do with the daily stresses of life that everybody will go through. So Queen is helping us get some victory, get our victory muscles going. You were telling us
Mm,
about some of the mental health strains that exist and how we can manage them. So you talked about stress and talked about work stress and maybe setting boundaries at home and at
mm.
work. And being able
Yeah.
to say no. And also, please go for that massage if you can afford it. That pedicure if it makes you feel good. Let me not
You
put
need
you at the
you may
beginning,
need it.
so selfish. Just take good care of yourself. Anything that makes you feel good. I want to chip in.
Yeah.
For me,
Mm.
I was speaking with a colleague some time back, and she said that for her Saturday mornings are her time. The whole family knows. And I'm like, it was so strange to me. So Saturday
Mm,
mornings is just when I came home, we met at a conference. So when I came home, I decided to implement it myself. So now Saturday morning, up until like 12 noon, unless I have a function, I am on my bed.
mm.
And everybody knows if they need to find me, they'll find me on my bed. And I could be doing anything. I could be making a phone call, I could be sketching, but it Queen, it made such a big difference in my life. I'm surprised how big a difference it
Imagine.
made. It's just these few
Yeah.
hours in the morning, no. I'm just like
Yeah.
maybe LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, but it made a big difference. So when you said self-care, it really hit home for me
Mm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I've seen how it doesn't have to be an expensive spa treatment. We are not saying it's bad. If you can do it, please do.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
Definitely.
know what works for you. I say everyone is
Mm-hmm.
different. Look, understand, try and ask yourself what is self-care or try a few things and then see what
Yeah.
works for you. So please, Queen, you're telling us more about overcoming strain. This is what you
Yeah.
do.
Thank you for sharing yours. At least now they know that it's a practical, it works.
It
Like
will.
people are actually engaging in it and it does help them. So in even in addition to, those certain boundaries, like you said, just getting regular exercise. Exercise is really good. Aside from making you physically fit, it releases endorphins in your brain, which helps you feel good. So having that regular exercise is good for your body, is good for your mind. Eating well. I know sometimes eating a balanced diet, it can be expensive here, eating foods. I'm sure a lot of people don't remember the last time they took some fruits. It comes on occasions. But it's good for us, it's good for our bodies, it's good for our bodies. So eating well, a good balanced diet is very necessary. Having enough sleep,
Mm.
right? Sometimes I've heard this saying that sleep is for the weak. I don't know who brought that up, but it's definitely not for the weak. You need sleep. You're a human being. God in His wisdom created sleep for a purpose. And when you sleep, that's when your fatigued cells regenerate. So if you are not sleeping, then you are deteriorating, you know. And
Oh.
then also you get to your memories consolidate when you sleep. They solidify the memories. So being able to have enough rest is very vital, for your survival. And just relaxing, practicing mindfulness, deep breathing. Some people do yoga. All these things are relaxation techniques that can help you deal with some of these strains that you might be faced with. Also, just having a good social support. Humans are social beings. We need other people. And so having a solid social support, it's critical. Talking to friends, talking to your family, having a counselor, just somebody you can engage with who you know is there for you. So,
Mm.
social support not necessarily about, oh, you want money, then you're going to them. Sometimes they might not have the money to give you in terms of the support, but they are a resource. They know other people who might provide certain help, or they can connect you to other people that will even give you that money you are looking for. So
Mm.
don't underestimate, relationships. Build on it, invest in it. And relationships don't just happen,
Mm.
right? You can have friends, but if you don't invest in engaging with the person, being there for the person too, don't expect that they suddenly do that for you when you are in need. So
Mhm.
being a good friend or being a good social support for another person is a great way for you to get social support. Right. And then time management.
Mm,
Okay. Yes, because sometimes you get overwhelmed because you have so much to do, yet you feel like you don't have enough time to do all of them. So you can prioritize, make a list of the things you need to accomplish and order them. What do I need to do first? What's urgent? What's, critical?
mm,
And then as you arrange them, take them one after the other. So when you have that order, it makes it less threatening because it doesn't look like you have to do all those things at once because you know that I'll do this first, then after I can go this. So you can go in a bit more calm. And I think my final tip would be to seek professional help. Come and see a
mm,
clinical psychologist if you need to. You know, sometimes the strains can be recurrent and get overwhelming. And like I mentioned at the beginning, if you don't take care of them, they can become a mental health illness. So you don't want to get there. So
mm.
do something now.
I like what you said about seek professional help because sometimes in seeking professional help, it's more like this. Okay, to me, sometimes it feels like this billboard. I have a mental health
Mm.
illness. But from what we are saying, and because we are not talking about mental health illnesses today, even someone who
Mm.
doesn't have a mental health illness or doesn't have
Yeah,
a mental health illness, is not manifesting mental health illness yet, can still seek psychological and professional support in helping them deal
definitely.
with the mental health strains. I
Yeah, yeah,
the social support that you said, if you are a friend, you would have a friend eventually. So
yeah.
don't just think about, oh, let me support these people. So when it's my time, they support me. Just be a good friend.
Yeah, I think
Well,
some
you know,
people
they may
can
not be
take
the
that.
ones to support you, but being a good friend comes back when you
Yeah.
and I mean all of us have had bad days with a colleague or a boss or something at work. Even finances, actually, times are hard. I couldn't do this. Oh, have you tried?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Someone said, I can't
Oh,
have
it's
onions. It's too expensive. And I can't eat jollof. And my children want jollof. Say, have you tried adding a little sugar to and
oh,
garlic?
interesting.
Like what? I tried it. It worked.
It was.
But
Oh,
they don't do
wow.
every day. But you don't know where
Yeah,
your help will come from. So I love what
yeah.
you said about that. You
Mm.
mentioned so many things, and I hope those who are listening take notes. If not, don't worry, you can always like rewind and go and listen to that. Thank you so much for that. I would want
Yeah.
to us to touch again on the um, being a support for others. So
Mm,
I'm personally not undergoing any mental health strain, but I notice
mm,
someone undergoing mental health strain. And I have all these tips, but it's weird to go to someone and say, hey, you have to say, how do you help? Because
mm,
I think Calm Hearts, Calm Minds are not just for the listeners and their mental health and how they can overcome, but also for the people around them. Information from here helps us make the victories accessible for others too. So can you give any advice if I have a friend, a colleague, anyone I know going through it and I want to help? What can I do? Like,
okay.
what shouldn't I do? If they are tips on that.
Well, yeah. So some of the things you can do is just being present. You know, sometimes people feel like you are there, but you're not present. You are distracted. You're not really listening to want to understand what they are going through. You're just trying to tell them that "Hey, what you did was not right, or you should have done this. You shouldn't have done this." Sometimes we are so quick to tell people what they shouldn't have done, which has
Mm,
caused their problem. But mind you, the people have already thought of all those things because they are going through it. So they have beaten themselves up enough. So
mm,
sometimes just that non-judgmental atmosphere you can give the person, that listening ear you can lend them, would go a long way for them to feel that, okay, somebody is there. Maybe I didn't do well, I wasn't right and all, but somebody is there to help me through this, to just understand me and listen to me. It goes a very, very long way to get a person out of that depressive state, or feeling sad, feeling hopeless about their situation, and helping them out.
Mm,
And you realize that the more you are present, the more the person tends to open up, because
mm,
initially they already feel that you might judge them and all, so they might be a bit closed up. You can also easily get frustrated that I'm trying to help you and you are doing some ways, some ways, so then you just leave them. No, you see. But sometimes just being consistent with the person, a little bit of patience will go a long way to get the person to now feel like, okay, this person is really there for me. Let me open up and be vulnerable. It's
mm,
very hard to be vulnerable, especially for men. You would see less men trying to open up about what they are really going through, and they really need it. Women, yeah, it's in our nature to just talk. So we talk a lot.
mm.
We end up
Oh, yeah.
sharing our problems easily. Exactly. But for the men, those of you who have husbands, just trying to understand them a bit more, like the circumstance, and being a bit more accommodating can go a long way to help them. It's not judging them. And then also, if you have an opinion, don't make it seem like you are always right. Well, the person should
Mm,
have done this. Be a bit circumspect in how you deal with the person. That doesn't also mean that you should walk on eggshells and not tell the person as it is.
mhm,
But when you rope the person in and out, they feel safe with you. They are more likely to listen, even if it's a criticism. They know that it comes from a good place. Okay, so you need to rope them in first, let them feel safe. Then you let them know, oh, maybe this, but you could have possibly done this, or why don't you think you do this? And they might be more willing to listen to you and try to change, because they understand where that advice is coming from. So
mm.
that's one way you can actually help people and also not judge them. Yeah.
Mm. I love what you said. It's the non-judgmental gives them a safe place to open up, whatever it is. They may not even
Yeah.
really talk about what is stressing them, but may talk about other things that helps bring the relief. And then also
Yeah.
be able to offer advice, whatever we've learned today, in a non-judgmental way. Like, don't you know you must sleep more? Like, you two, you're up all you are now come to tell me you are sleeping. But oh, have you considered?
Yeah.
So the how
Yeah. That's
is as important as the what, probably even more
the
important than
what.
the what in this situation. So don't come
Probably.
in and save
Yeah.
the day, but listen more. I will take a few tips from that myself because I can be very strong natured. So I may even
Mm.
come from a good place, but I'll come so off so strongly. I may spoil the whole whatever I'm trying to do with you. So I think for anybody who's just be there, be listening, be present in a
Mm.
non-judgmental way, and then later you can do it over and over again, or even in that moment, offer a suggestion, not an order, and help them with what you can.
That's
Thank you so
fair.
much for telling us this. This is very, very useful. Um,
Mm.
oh, just quick one. I just add this quickly. I remember listening to a certain popular counselor, marriage counselor in Ghana, and he mentioned that tell the woman you are so quick to talk. And then in time a man promise, Bema the identity, then you say, oh, you go back and say, Nancy, it's like you've already
Exactly.
created a scene where they don't feel safe. So now what is it
Yes.
about?
Why should they talk? You
I'm
know.
glad you mentioned that,
Mm.
especially for our men who are listening or those who have men in their lives, or everybody does have someone in their lives. Be
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
in mental, and then you can offer because by then they are more open to it. Now let's talk about professional help. Um,
Mm.
when can I tell personally that I need
Mm.
professional help? And when can I suggest to another person that they may also need
Mm.
professional help because it is a touchy subject,
Yeah.
especially when people automatically feel that professional help means that, hey, then you have bipolar or you have depression, anxiety, can't
Yeah.
keep the words around, but
Yeah.
you have already established, and thank you for establishing that you don't need to have a mental health illness to seek professional help. But
Yeah.
at what time is it just I can go and a manicure and a pedicure and I'll be fine versus I should have
Okay, okay.
some help.
So, first you have to be very self-aware. You have to know your natural state of functioning so that when there's a decline, you can tell. I
Okay.
think you mentioned earlier that you have also worked on it because I'm sure you noticed the changes. Okay, if I have my solid mental state and I'm working, this is how much I produce. But nowadays I feel like I can't even concentrate on the little thing that I used to do. So when you start noticing those changes, there's a reduction in your productivity. You are not functioning as you would or as you want to, it may be time to speak to a professional.
Mm.
Again, I am aware that, mental health in Ghana, it has that stigma tag still there. A lot of people are, changing, but I think we still have a long way to go. And so it's understandable that when immediately you hear mental health professional, you're like, hey, no, I don't want to go there.
I'm
But
not,
that,
I don't have, I don't want to
you
have,
know,
I want to tell me I have, I don't want to know.
the truth is, I mentioned earlier, I prefer positive psychology, and some of the things we do are optimism, goal setting, hope, increasing positive emotions, increasing positive experiences. And these are things that we all want to do. We all want to experience, have more hope, be grateful, be more mindful, savor our present, you know, our experiences. So it's not that scary in
Mm.
in front of the mental health professional. As long as you notice that your function is affected, your thinking, your feeling, and your behavior are not as they should be for
Mhm.
you, it may be time to speak to a professional, and at least going to the professional and getting to know that okay, there's really I'm
No.
okay, there's nothing wrong with me. It's always better than waiting until it's that bad.
Mm.
Then now you go and there's so much more to work on, and you hurt yourself. Just think about it. When you have a slight headache, right? In terms of attention to our physical health, you have a slight headache, you quickly go to either if you have a medicine cabinet or something, or you go to the pharmacy, get some painkiller, you have a cold, you take it. We are always eager to take care of our physical health, and we are eager to get something to ease even the slightest of symptoms. But
Mm.
when it comes to our mental health, we are more oblivious to it, and because we don't see, and it doesn't look so obvious to us, so we keep pushing it to the background. Oh, I'll take care of it tomorrow, or I'll
Mm.
be fine, or, you know, ignoring it. And then it's becoming worse. So the best thing would be to seek help as quickly as you can, to
Mm.
know that there's nothing, or learn a few tips to help you deal with it as early as possible so it doesn't become a mental health illness in the future.
Mm. Thank you for that. And I think that goes for same for when we notice, when we are aware of ourselves, we can tell that
Yeah.
our regular mental health, um, uh, when you use a particular term, I
It.
can't remember, state,
Oh,
yes, is like this. But now
yeah.
I'm complaining too much. I can't sleep, this, that, that. So you
Mhm.
know that it's shifted. And this is where, at
Exactly.
this point, after doing all your self-care tips and stuff is not working, you know you need help. Um, that will be the same for others too as well. When we notice that something has changed, she gets angry too much,
Exactly.
and we don't
Mm-hmm.
know. We've been a friend, we've understood them, they've tried something but still not working. Maybe then we can suggest. Because if we've been a friend
That's
for that long already or been around, then it's easy to even
good
say
to
we
know.
thought of
Mm-hmm.
professional and just say, hey, you go professional help. Wait, that one don't. You may not make it
Yeah,
worse.
exactly. They'll cut you off.
Catch you, no, no, who are you to diagnose me? So I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate what you said about that, about seeking help as well. So really lovely that you spent some time with us, and really lovely that you also
My
reminded us that
pleasure.
if we don't deal with these issues, not everyone's own will magically go away, and that may not be part of that everyone. So make sure it's dealt with. I
Yeah.
remember when I was in secondary school, someone talked about someone having a high fever. Then later on in life, well, when I started reading why versus adults to the mental health, they had a mental health condition. I don't know what it was personally. However, also we're talking about mental health strains. There may have been signs and symptoms that the person may not have been aware of them. But if today
Yeah.
listen to Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and you listen to Queen on this particular topic, you may start to become aware of some of the things that could lead to the manifestation of a mental health illness. Or just be in a very, some people won't even show up mental health illness. Your body will just break down. And that is also
Yes.
not good because it's
Yeah.
affected. So thank you so much. I hope that we will practice the tips you've given us. I hope that we will seek help and be friends to people, not just for my future, but be real friends to people and
Yeah.
be able to be in the position. And spouses, listen to your spouses more. Let me just drop that in. All your friends more, be present. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. Queen, you said
Thank
a
you
lot,
too.
and I am thankful that we have this. If there
Okay.
was one thing
Mm.
that you wanted everybody listening to us to remember, if they forgot everything on in this meeting, everything in this call, everything this video that they are watching now, or this podcast that they are listening to, what would that one thing be?
So I'd like to say that everybody may be susceptible to a mental health strain. And
Mm,
that's not necessarily saying that you have a mental health illness, but
mm,
then you need to take care of your mental health as much as possible so that it doesn't develop into a mental health illness.
mm.
And as you take care, the stresses of life will be there, but you need to make the extra effort to be able to build a sense of resilience, to be able to face these things and not break down. And you can do it. It's
Can
possible.
do it. Thank you so much, Queen. Thank you, everyone, for listening or watching us to this point. This is Calm Hearts, Calm Minds. Our aim is to make mental health victories, like overcoming mental health strains, more relatable, more accessible, and more relevant to us, especially in Ghana and our society. Thank you so much, Queen. We look forward to seeing you
Thank
again.
you for
We
having
can't
me,
wait to have
definitely.
you on another episode. Thank you, everyone.
Alright.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Calm Hearts, Calm Minds, and NSS Heart Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and we hope you learned something new. We look forward to you joining the next episode. We can't wait to see you soon. Bye.